Now, the Democrat Party, I guess, to a certain extent, held her to what she had done, and that is make a great error. But I can tell you that in many cases, in the case of Senator Clinton, she knows that she can vote one way one day with 64% of her constituents at least.
Okay.
And then if she's found to be wrong, then she can simply blame it on the intelligence. Once again, the intelligence that informed me that there was not credible evidence for a program of weapons of mass destruction.
Right.
She can blame she can blame the briefers, she can blame the president, but once again, Dr. Tillawi, if that president had not been given authority by the authorization that passed the House on October the 10th and I think passed the Senate on October the 11th, he would not have been able to go to war. If Senator Hillary Clinton, if Senator Charles Schumer, if Senator John Kerry, if Senator Evan Bayh from my state of Indiana, all Democrats, if they would have, because you recall that the majority leader at that time was Tom Daschle, a Democrat, who Tom Daschle was the individual that introduced S.J. Res 23 in the Senate. A Democrat in the Senate introduced that bill. And so, and a majority of Democrats in the Senate voted for that resolution.
Okay.
And so, because she knows that she can go one day and vote a certain way, and then go the next day and say, if I knew then what I know now, I would have voted differently. That's what can happen in our day and age.
Okay. All right, Congressman, we are going to watch a little clip, about 4 minutes, of actually some of the speeches that took place on that day. We're going to show what Senator McCain's position was, and we have a clip also from Senator Obama, even though he was not a senator at that time. And then at the end of the clip, we're going to see an ad that you had ran while campaigning. So let's go to the clip.
Whether to assume history's burden and make the world safe from a megalomaniacal tyrant whose cruelty and offense to the norms of civilization are infamous, or whether to wait for this man, armed with the world's worst weapons and willing and able to use them to make history for us. It's a question of whether preemptive action to defeat an adversary whose designs would imperil our vital interests is not only appropriate but moral, and whether our morality and security give us cause to fire the first shot in this battle. The government of Saddam Hussein is a clear and present danger to the United States of America. Would that he would be just another Arab dictator pumping oil and repressing his people, but satisfied with his personal circumstances within the confines of his country's borders. That situation alone would offend our sense of justice and compel us to militate for a regime change, but by means short of preemptive military action. But Saddam Hussein has shown he has greater ambitions. His ambitions lie not in Baghdad or Tikrit or Basra, but in the deserts of Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. Saddam has masterfully manipulated the international weapons inspections regime over the course of a decade, enabling him to remain in power with his weapons of mass destruction intact and growing in lethality. He knows how to play for time and how to exploit divisions within the international community, greased by the prospect of oil contracts for friendly foreign powers. His calculated ambiguity about his willingness to accept a new inspections regime are intended to stave off military attack until such time as he is able to deter it through deployment of an Iraqi nuclear weapon. He is using opponents of war in America, including well-intentioned individuals who honestly believe inspections represent an alternative to war, to advance his own ends, sowing divisions within our ranks that encourage reasonable people to believe he may be sincere. He is not. He's had 10 years to prove otherwise, and he has transparently failed. His regime would be secure if he would only acquiesce to the international community's demands to disarm. He has not. It is Saddam Hussein who puts his own regime at risk by developing these weapons. The burden is not on America to justify going to war. The burden is Saddam Hussein's to justify why his regime should continue to exist as long as its continuing existence threatens the world. Giving peace a chance only gives Saddam Hussein more time to prepare for war on his terms at a time of his choosing in pursuit of ambitions that will only grow as his power to achieve them grows. It's a safe assumption that Iraqis will be grateful to whoever is responsible for securing their freedom.
I don't oppose war in all circumstances, and when I look out over this crowd today, I know there is no shortage of patriots or patriotism. What I do oppose is a dumb war.
Us rushing headlong into a war unilaterally was a mistake and may still be a mistake. If it has happened, then at that point what the debate's really going to be about is what's our long-term commitment there? How much is it going to cost? What does it mean for us to rebuild Iraq? How do we stabilize and make sure that this country doesn't splinter into factions between the Shias and the Kurds and the Sunnis?
I've looked at the evidence. I'm a hawk when it comes to defeating terrorism. I was strongly supportive of Afghanistan. I would have picked up arms myself to prevent 9/11 again. I don't think the president has made the case on Iraq because I don't see weapons of mass destruction. You said this before. I said this in October of 2002, 6 months before the war was launched.
But if you had been a member of the Senate, you would have voted against the resolution.
Yes.
In October 2002, when America was clamoring to go to war in Iraq, I voted against sending America's sons and daughters into harm's way because the intelligence did not support the claim that there were weapons of mass destruction there. It wasn't a popular vote, especially with members of my own party. In fact, it can get lonely when you take a stand. But my mom and dad taught me that you don't restore trust by doing the popular thing, you do it by doing the right thing. I'm Congressman John Hostettler, and I approve this message, and I think they would have too.
Congressman, I want to thank you for taking that stand from the beginning. Now, my question after we heard that, was Senator McCain lying to the people in the United States on that day from the Senate floor? You heard what he said on that day. Was he lying to us?
I can tell you, Dr. Tillawi, that if you took what was delivered to members of Congress on face value from the administration, if not the briefers from the intelligence community, the Central Intelligence Agency, the State Department Intelligence Arm, the Defense Intelligence Agency, and others, if you took what people like George Tenet, who told the president himself that it's a slam dunk, if you took what people like Condoleezza Rice, the National Security Advisor, were telling, if you took even ultimately what Colin Powell, Secretary of State, said before the United Nations, if you took all of those things that the political leadership of the administration was saying, you would be echoing Senator McCain's floor speech.
But Congressman, you are opening up for us tonight a very dark window on our congressmen and our politicians that a senator like McCain could not see it the way you saw it at that time. And now we are talking about Senator McCain becoming the President of the United States. Whose intelligence is he going to rely on?
Well, as Commander-in-Chief and as the sole member of the Article 2 branch of the government, meaning the Article 2 of the United States Constitution only speaks to two constitutional officers, and that is the President and the Vice President. And the President is the Commander-in-Chief. And so he will assess intelligence according to his own will. And that is not necessarily.
But Senator McCain had the same intelligence that President Bush had. That you yourself saying it was bad intelligence. There was no reading. You don't know where these people